Hey guys, David Clayton here with GuitarBreakdown.com, and today we're really excited to be kicking off this series of lessons that we're going to be doing over the course of the next few weeks. It's based on a topic that I think is often overlooked by especially more advanced players as they get involved in learning technique and different scales and stuff. The subject is bending strings. And a lot of times when you get into all the more advanced ideas, you forget about the simplicity of just bending a string and letting a note sing and breathe. And guys like Michael Landau and Jeff Beck, they do it best. I mean, so many other guys do it so great, but they do it in such unique ways. And I wrote down a list of like 20 or 25 ideas that are really unique and I think you guys are going to really like. And this is one of those lessons that I thought was really accessible to beginners all the way up to advanced guys, because the beginners, they don't have to learn new scales or anything crazy. They could just use these motifs and ideas with what they already know, maybe a simple pentatonic scale, and just explore with it, and they can get real musical with it. And the advanced guys, maybe there's certain bends that they never thought of or ways of doing it, and then they can take those ideas and start exploring too. And it's all about exploring and being musical with this. So I hope you guys stick around with these lessons. There's a lot of really great content. If you guys have not, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really helps us out. And also, this lesson series is based on a TrueFire.com competition that we're involved in. So check the description below, head over there and vote for these videos if you like them. Every week we post a new one for the next 4 or 5 weeks, and you can vote on each one. So I thank you for checking this out, and let's get to the lesson. All right, so let's get started with the first concept we're going to talk about here. We're going to use everything from a clean tone to a distorted tone, and this is something that I advise experimenting with. Again, this whole lesson series is about experimentation. Any of these ideas, even if they sound really good with a clean tone, use them with a higher gain just to see what it sounds like. Because especially bending notes, it's such an expressive thing that you can get different things whether you have a distorted guitar or a clean guitar. So just experiment and see what you like. And the first idea we're going to talk about is bending just quarter steps. It's the simplest thing to do, but so many people overlook it. So if you ask somebody to play, say, A minor pentatonic, a lot of times they'll play right? They're playing the right notes, and they're playing some sequences and stuff, but there's no love or attention to any individual note. And to me, I like to think of every note as having some kind of importance. Even in fast runs, you gotta have some notes have a little more importance than the other. And that's what makes it sweet. You're trying to squeeze a little love or juice out of these notes. So instead of doing, even just simply walking down that scale, you can do, right? And now I didn't do any whole step or half step bends. We're not talking about doing anything like, you know, we're not talking about doing any of those kind of lick things. We're just talking about subtle accentuation of notes. So this is a whole step, if this is simple for some people maybe, but you take that C note on the E string and bend up a whole step. So you're bending up 2 frets. You know, we're used to doing that. Half step bend, same thing. You're bending from this 8th fret to the 9th fret on the E string. Right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about little quarter step bend, which is in between a half step. You're not getting to that note. Right? It's a little flat. It's just raising it up just a little bit to get a little, like, vocal quality out of it. Right? It just sounds really cool and bluesy, and it just sounds to me so much better than. So that's how you can get a little musical with everything, every note that you play. You just have to avoid certain notes. You can do it on pretty much everything, but when it comes to maybe like the root note, you just don't want to really bend. That's one note that kind of wants to stay as its note. If you like it, experiment with it, because again, it's all about experimentation. So if you like that dissonance, that's cool, use it. The second thing we're going to get into is this little string bending thing that a lot of people don't do, which is bending pentatonics. So you got to know your 5 pentatonic scales. Right, that's all A minor pentatonic on the B and E string. But what most people do will do this typical bend, right? That's right, and that's just bending the 8th fret of the B string up a whole step, and you're then playing the 5th fret of the E string. Typical bend, right? But now when you go up to the next position, in order to stay in pentatonics, you got to bend that A note to the next note in the scale, which is a C note. That's the first one. The second one is, so you're always bending to the note that's on the A string, on the E string. So that's a whole step bend. This is a step and a half bend, right? Then the next pattern is a whole step bend. Next one is a whole step. Then the next one, step and a half. Then the next one is a whole step. Right? So that sounds like. And if you use a little bit of, well, we'll use a lot of higher gain. Right? Just sounds really, really cool and can get really aggressive. Now there's a perfect example where you hear it on a clean tone as opposed to a heavy distortion tone, and it just has a different tone. Now you don't have to go in a row, and you don't just have to do it on the B and E string. You can do it on all different strings, but it's that staying within the pentatonic realm. Now another thing you can do is, instead of going to that second position and bending up, instead of bending up to that C note, you can bend only a whole step to the B note. And what you end up getting there is, you start getting outside the pentatonic scale, you get that B note, which is the 9th, which is a really cool jazzy kind of tone. So now you have, and then you could bend that note one more time, the step and a half, to the C note. So now you get 2 bends there. You have
whole step bend, then a step and a half. And you do the whole step here, whole step. Then here again, you could do just a whole step on the 17th fret. Now you get the F sharp note, which is a 6th, which is a fine note. Then you do a step and a half again, then a whole step. And that, with a little bit of gain and aggression, sounds good. All right, just a cool little sounding thing that a lot of people stick with this, or they'll go up here, or up here, but they miss those step and a half ones, which just sound really, really cool. So experiment with that on all different strings, stay in the pentatonic, or maybe you could go slightly out, and just, use a clean tone and a distorted tone to, try out all those ideas. All right, so the last two concepts we're going to deal with in this lesson are ideas that we'll put in the PDF document. They're kind of licky kind of ideas. But the first one is something that I teach my students to help them control their bends. You don't want to be, most of the times, you don't want to be all over the place, bending sharp here, bending flat here. You want to kind of nail those pitches. So this is a nice, fun way of practicing that because it's musical. Again, it's just a little idea all on one string, so you could start learning the strength, the muscle memory it takes to do the lick on a low E string or a high E string or the middle strings. They're all they take different strength and amounts of bending to make the lick come off. So the lick is basically this. It's right, really, really simple. Nice little bluesy thing. You put a little bit of grit on it. You have right? And all it is bending the 10th fret up a whole step and then going down to the 8th fret of, this is all on the E string. Then you bend that up a whole step, then up a half step. So you bend it up a whole step. You can go just down a half step, or you can go back down to the original note and bend it up a half step. And you resolve on the root, which is the 5th fret. So you have, right? Really cool thing. Now, if you do that on every string, right? You'll see how it takes a little different strength to do each one. And one cool thing to do is you can check it while you do it. So play the note that you're going to bend to first. So say on the G string, you're going to bend this 7th fret to the 8th to the 9th fret. Hear that tone, and then bend it, and then play that note again. It's just really musical. Right? So that's one idea. The next one is a lick that I got from Josh Smith. We're putting out these lesson packages, and Josh just plays all these crazy ideas. And this one lick that he did was just so cool. It was just simply... right? And the reason why I thought that was so cool is because that's a perfect example of, if you played that stale, it would sound fine. But when you start adding a little bit of those bends, right? Just sounds really, really, really cool. All right, so let's close out this lesson by playing over a simple loop I have here. We're going to do everything from playing the quarter step bends to the pentatonic type bends to the little licks that we showed. And we're going to do clean tone to slightly broken up to distortion. Again, the name of this game is to experiment. You want to have fun with it, you want to make it musical, and you want to try and you know, get the juicy parts of each note to really ring out. So what we'll do here is real simple loop. We're just going to start with, we'll play the pentatonics with no bends, right? So simple. Sounds fine, right? Sounds okay, it's musical, but now add a little bit of those little bends in there. And you could add the full whole step bends and half steps. Again, we're just playing around, but really focus on those little quarter steps. Go into the different positions. Right? Real simple. Again, it's just experimenting, getting little phrases going. The next thing we're going to do is do that little lick that we talked about. Right? Now, we'll just start out. Right? Right, now we add a little bit of gain on that. And you don't have to play the lick the same each time, so instead of doing, you can play it where you let the notes breathe a little bit. All right, do it on the B string. Do it with a little higher gain. Right? Now what we'll do is we'll do the pentatonic thing, right? We'll get a little aggressive with that. Now I slowly went up to that step and a half. Right? To that minor third. Really cool stuff. Now what we'll do is we'll do that Josh lick that we talked about, right? So you have all right, we'll do it with a little cleaner tone. Changing the phrase around. Right? Now we'll do it straightforward. I just totally did that different than the original, but here's the original. So it's real simple, fun experimentation, and you could see how you don't just have to do the licks exactly the same or the phrases exactly the same. It's about, you know, squeezing the juice out of each note, if you want to call it that. So I hope you guys liked that. Again, click the link below and vote on this if you guys liked it, and I look forward to seeing you next week with this series of lessons. Next week we're going to go over, again, it's going to get a little more advanced with these bends, and it's going to get a little more complex, but these simple techniques that we talked about in this first lesson, don't overlook for those more advanced ones, because these are the sweet spots. You hear B.B. King and all these guys. I mean, they're so popular and famous because people connect with those little sweet bends and little sweet phrases. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you on the next lesson. Thanks, guys.